Good morning, my brothers and sisters. Welcome to episode 103 in the book of Acts. We're going to learn about a wonderful lady, woman named Lydia today. And the title of today is Vote with Your Purple. You'll see what I mean here. This is about Lydia, who's the first convert in all of Europe. It's just an incredibly exciting story. This is from Acts chapter 16, verse 11. So setting sail from Troas, we made a direct voyage to Samothrace, and the following day to Neapolis. So this is Paul, Silas, Luke, going from Asia to Europe. It's a 2-day trip by boat. This is when the Lord said, come over to Macedonia. So this is on the very proximal end of the Greek peninsula in Macedonia. So they're going to go to Philippi. Here it is, verse 12. And from there to Philippi, which is just the inland city, which is a leading city of the district of Macedonia and a Roman colony. We remained in the city some days. And on the Sabbath day, we went outside the gate to the riverside, where we supposed there was a place of prayer. And we sat down and spoke to the women who had come together. One who heard us was a woman named Lydia from the city of Thyatira, a seller of purple goods who was a worshiper of God, and the Lord opened her heart to pay attention to what was said by Paul. And after she was baptized, and her household as well, she urged us, saying, if you have judged me to be faithful to the Lord, come to my house and stay. And she prevailed upon us. All right, so it's the habit of Jews to get together on the Sabbath, and if you didn't have 10 men, if you had more than 10 men, then you had to make a synagogue. So we know that there's not that many Jews in this particular area. So there's no synagogue and no men, and there's only women, and she's probably not even a Jew. She's probably just a devout woman. And the rule of thumb was if you didn't have a synagogue on the Sabbath, you'd go outside the city and go down by the river. And so that's where Paul, light bulb goes on. That's where he thinks he's going to find some at least devout people. So they go down to the river, to this place of prayer, and this is a sitting down sermon, which is interesting. Usually Paul is standing. It's the sitting sermon of Paul. And he meets a woman, and she is described as a seller of purple goods, or more specifically, a seller of purple dyes. She is of purple. She is the woman of purple. What's the deal with purple? Well, it was an expensive dye. She probably had means because it was extremely expensive. So here, the reason why it was so expensive is the purple dye came from the mucus of a hypobracial gland of the murex shellfish. And the beauty of it was colorfast. So you could wash the clothes and they would stay purple. And it was 10 times as expensive as gold. Why? Because like 8,000 shellfish needed to be utilized to make even a single yard of this fabric. So a single cloak of this would sell for 3,000 denarii, which would be 10 years of labor for a common person. So it was just a very precious, incredibly expensive piece of dye, and they would dye various things with this. So that's why it's mentioned, is because it's such an important commodity. It was kind of the designer clothes, the designer dye of the day. All right, but we find that the Lord is active, that the Lord opens the Lord's activity, the Lord opens her heart. And what's the big deal? Well, it's the first convert in all of Europe. The first convert in all of Europe was a woman, and she comes from Asia. So she actually lives, or her hometown, which was full of the snails, by the way, she lives in an area that Paul had just come from, but now she's residing in Europe, in Philippi, in this Greek peninsula, and she's going to be super important in the spread of the gospel. So this is the laser beam of God's love going to females, the laser beam of God's love going to Europe. So, and we see that the Lord is active, then we see that she's paying attention, and we see that Paul is doing her job. So we see the faithfulness of God, the faithfulness of woman, and the faithfulness of Paul. Then we see that she votes with her feet, that is, she votes with the river, and she and her household get baptized after belief. We see that she's probably not a Jew because there was this conflict of whether Paul and this Jewish posse could go and stay with her. And she says, look, if I'm a part of the kingdom, if you see me as faithful to the Lord, come and stay at my house, which they do. And why does she have room? Because she's probably rich enough to have enough room to house the whole posse. And then we see of her bravery, because not today, but tomorrow's talk, we're going to see that it all starts to hit the fan, and they start beating Christians and arresting them. And we see her be faithful through that and still host the new Philippian Christian church at her house. So we see this incredible bravery. All right, so a couple of points here. Number one, the Lord loves women. Number two, the Lord loves Europe and Europeans. Number three, that geography informs this account of God's love for women in Europe. And it's the go west young man, go west young woman idea of the gospel going to Europe via this Asian woman who sells purple dye. The gospel comes to a place, a new place, it comes to a new person, and it comes to a new continent via this new city. So if you are lacking baptism, vote with your river. If you're lacking belief, then vote with your attention. If you're lacking people, then vote with your household and maybe your whole snail staff. And if you're lacking a ministry, how about voting with your house, using your house as a ministry? And if you're lacking bravery, vote with your purple. That is all your resources. She puts it all on the line for the new Christian church and the new Christianity. Vote with your purple. Thanks for listening.